Here's your wrestling news for November 2nd, 2020. And your headlines for today include: fans not happy with WWE dropping the ball with Retribution. The Young Bucks react to landing on WWE ThunderDome banned list. Who are the next 4 opponents for Roman Reigns? WWE plans a major Raw segment involving Roman Reigns and Randy Orton. WWE plans yet another romantic angle? Who owns the rights to Sting's name? Will Sting be known as Sting in case he goes to AEW? Reason why WWE didn't add NXT to Survivor Series revealed. Why Big E wasn't on WWE SmackDown this week. Braun Strowman opens up about Vince McMahon plans for him, and more. We are kicking off today with Retribution news as they lost, yet again, on last week's Raw to the Hurt Business, and there's been some not-so-flattering comparisons made. Online, fans have been comparing the group to other stables that fizzled out, such as the Alliance of 2001 and WWE's version of the NWO, as well as the Nexus, which at least started strong before losing their momentum at SummerSlam 2010. It looks like things could be changing though, as on Twitter, Ali has promised he'll turn the proverbial ship around, but encouraged fans to continue having no faith in the group, as it'll make what they do all the more sweeter. All members of Retribution have been dealing with negative feedback online, but when one fan said that Ali must be sick of comments like this, he sarcastically replied, saying he loves people yelling at performers about a show they don't even write. Between the masks, the names, and their consistent losses, some people feel like Retribution is beyond salvaging at this point, though hopefully things will pick up tonight, if Ali is to be believed. Now, we previously covered that WWE has a display of images banned at the ThunderDome and the control center for their venue, and 2 pictures on display caught a lot of attention. In a recent behind-the-scenes video, it appears that both of the Young Bucks are banned from being shown, and after a ton of fans commented on this, the Jackson brothers took note. On the official Young Bucks Twitter account, the pair posted a photo of their own headshots to compare with the images from WWE, and it certainly seems like the Bucks have been banned. The brothers didn't include any caption, though there was no need, and whilst the Bucks and other AEW names like Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes are banned, they probably got a good laugh out of how this has been revealed. SmackDown next, as Roman Reigns' Universal title reign isn't expected to end anytime soon, though he has no shortage of possible opponents going forward. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer noted that Daniel Bryan is the best option at this time, a theory that was galvanized this week when Jey Uso turned heel and attacked the former world champion to end the show. With Jey aligning himself with the tribal chief, it may not be long until Bryan and Reigns face off. As Meltzer explained, he's someone Roman can have a great match with, has the star tenure, and can cut the promos to tell a story to build it. But with such a nothing return, Bryan was brought back seemingly as a mid-card face in the crowd. Bryan isn't the only option though, as Meltzer also listed Big E and Rey Mysterio as possible candidates for the tribal chief, and there's always rumors of a monster push for Lars Sullivan, though it'd be difficult to pull off a heel versus heel program. He added, "Lars Sullivan's getting the monster push, and you can do a heel versus heel program at some point, but that shouldn't be for months. The point being is that they need to create 2 or 3 key baby faces that are groomed for Reigns, and Bryan is the strongest potentially of all of them for right now. Whoever steps up to face the tribal chief, Reigns won't make it easy for them, as he's showing a viciousness fans have never seen from him before. But who do you want to see face Reigns? Do you think Bryan is the best option? Leave your views in the comments below. Whoever steps up to Reigns will probably also have to deal with Jey Uso, and fans can expect some big changes for both Usos in due time. It's expected that when Jimmy eventually joins the family, the two will be wrestling shirtless like their cousin, and that they'll also have a new theme, replacing their current theme done with that Day One remix. The eventual goal is for the Usos to reclaim the SmackDown Tag Team titles, though that all hinges on Jimmy being cleared, with reports saying he should be back in December or January. It's also been rumored that the next few months of the Reigns and Usos story has already been mapped out, so fans can expect the stable to become whole during that time frame, and Vince McMahon is reportedly a huge fan of what's unfolded so far. The idea of a Reigns-Uso stable isn't the most far-fetched idea that WWE could come up with, as the family members are notoriously a close-knit unit outside of the ring, and we're confident that it'll be interesting and entertaining to see where the family goes from here. Speaking of Reigns, the Tribal Chief will be facing WWE Champion Randy Orton at Survivor Series, and this could mean an appearance by the Tribal Chief and Paul Heyman on tonight's Raw. Survivor Series 2020 is less than 3 weeks away, so the company will need to act fast to build hype for the show, so having Reigns invade tonight's Raw certainly makes sense for the show. Reigns may not even come alone, as Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn, SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks, and the SmackDown Tag Team Champions the Street Profits all have matches announced against their Raw counterparts, and hopefully we'll see some cross-branded action on tonight's edition of the Red Brand. One person expected for tonight is Braun Strowman, who's come a long way since being the black sheep of the Wyatts. This year, the Monster Among Men captured his first Universal Championship, and though many fans thought it was long overdue, there was a time when it looked like it was never going to happen. Fans will remember that WWE seemed ready to pull the trigger on Strowman in 2018, especially when Roman Reigns vacated the Universal title due to leukemia, only for Brock Lesnar to recapture the vacant title in mere minutes at that year's Crown Jewel. Speaking on Lillian Garcia's Chasing Glory podcast, Strowman said that Vince McMahon thought he still wasn't ready at that time, which proved to be difficult for the monster. He said, "It was just a hard pill to swallow. I'm excessive. I don't do anything in moderation. It's all or nothing. It's all about the process, and when you get there, it's so worth it." Though he's no longer a Universal Champion, Strowman is expected to be a significant player on Raw going forward. And while we don't know when or if he'll hold another world title again, we're confident he'll be prominently featured in major storylines. Sting news next, as the WWE recently pulled all of his merchandise from their store, indicating that his contract ran out some time ago, since the promotion has about 6 months to sell merch of a former superstar. With the Stinger gone, though, there's been questions about who owns the Sting name, and when a listener asked Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, he explained that Sting purchased the rights for that name a long time ago. While some stars are made to sign over their names prior to appearing on WWE television, that wasn't the case with Sting, and though Vince McMahon owns a ton of intellectual property thanks to his 2001 purchase of WCW, he doesn't get this particular name. With AEW teasing a huge, shocking moment for this Saturday's Full Gear, it may not be long until we hear Sting's name again, but at least we know wherever he goes, he'll always be the Stinger. Back to WWE, as this year's Survivor Series will be a huge event, but fans haven't forgotten last year's dominance by NXT over Raw and SmackDown. Despite this performance though, the Gold brand hasn't been featured for this year's show, despite last year's event seemingly cementing it as an equal third brand. And in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's reported, "The reason for NXT not being part of Survivor Series this year is to prevent any more COVID-19 outbreaks. There have been COVID-19 cases at the Performance Center, and Vince McMahon reportedly wants to keep NXT away from the other two brands as a precautionary measure. With all that in mind, it's wise of WWE to keep NXT away from this year's Survivor Series, as after multiple outbreaks, the absolute last thing WWE needs is this wave of positive cases spreading to their main roster." Back to Raw, as Lana is on the cusp of becoming a babyface thanks to WWE playing up her sympathetic role, and while she's on Raw's women's team for Survivor Series, she's not exactly wanted. When Shayna Baszler posted a graphic for a match tonight, pitting her and Nia Jax against Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, the Queen of Spades pointed out that all 4 women were part of the team, saying it's quote, "our team," and that Lana needs to learn that. Lana is certainly not wanted by the WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, and this could be the right way for the company to get her over as a sympathetic babyface. In addition to giving her more time to show her improving in-ring ability, it's not hard to feel sympathetic for a woman who's gone through 6 announce tables, and we'll have to see what the Ravishing Russian has to say about her team tonight. One person who's doing fine enough on Raw is Angel Garza, and though he failed to woo many female superstars on last week's show, Nia Jax accepted the rose that he had to offer. With the segment involving Jax, many fans were reminded of the romance angle between her and Enzo Amore, which played out in a similar manner, but didn't lead to much for either superstar. If WWE books this right though, this angle could be a big deal, especially as Shayna Baszler wasn't pleased with Jackson Garza, as she'd much rather her focus on their women's tag team titles as well as the upcoming Survivor Series match. There's no shortage of possibilities of what could happen between the three now, and we could even see a match between Jax and Baszler, as the Queen of Spades would be insistent on getting her partner's mind off of Garza. It may even be Garza's involvement that costs them the women's tag team titles to a more cohesive team such as the Riot Squad, and with both women possible opponents for Raw Women's Champion Asuka, this split may be happening sooner than anyone thinks. Now, Ronda Rousey hasn't been seen in WWE since her WrestleMania 35 loss, and if she is set to return, she might not be coming alone. According to Fightful Select, the former Raw Women's Champion continues to train in the ring, hinting at a possible return, but is training alongside her husband and fellow MMA star, Travis Braun. Their report specified that Braun has been working on his selling and timing, and this comes after James Storm recently trained with both of them at an undisclosed location. Though he hasn't had a fight since July 2017, Braun remains in the USADA drug testing pool required for UFC fighters, and has impressed people with his agility for a man his size. Fans may recall that Braun was the first to hit the ring when Bret Hart was attacked by a fan at the 2019 Hall of Fame ceremony, and if his training continues, a mixed tag match could be in the works with both husband and wife sharing the ring. Over to SmackDown next, as Chad Gable recently ditched the Shorty G name, and despite this new serious attitude, it doesn't mean he's a priority. According to a member of WWE's creative, Gable is still being described as an afterthought, which explains why he wasn't on the latest edition of the Blue brand. Gable wasn't the only notable absence from the show, as Big E wasn't featured, which, like Gable, was because the company didn't have anything for him this week. The source added that Vince wasn't running around asking about plans for either man, but unlike Gable, there are plans in the works for the former New Day star. It's a shame that Gable can't seem to catch a break in WWE for the past couple of years, as despite being a former Olympian and former three-time tag team champion, it seems nobody wants to give Gable a shot despite his name change. And we're ending today with Bray Wyatt news, who has a great voice for voiceover work, and now his talents have expanded past WWE. Before he was Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda played 4 years of college football, with the last 2 being with Troy University. And recently, he did the voiceover work for a hype video for the Alabama University's football program. A spooky promo to match the season, Wyatt put over Troy University as a force to be reckoned with and ended the video with his catchphrase, "Let me in." The Troy Trojans shared this video recently before Halloween last week, and we'd like to think it sent a shiver up the spine of any potential opponents.